This is the new Evolution R185SMS-Li. It's an 18 volt sliding mitre saw, cordless, and in this video I'm going to show you what's in the box and how to assemble it. This is just a quick look at the box. And this version, as you can see, is the loaded version with a UK charger. Loaded means it's the actual sliding mitre saw with the battery and the battery charger. This is the box that the battery comes in. As you can see, it's an 18 volt battery, 4 amp hours, 72 watt hours, and it says it takes 50 minutes to charge in the Evolution charger. This is the box that the charger comes in. As you can see, it's a rapid charge charger. It gives you the charging time for the various Evolution 18 volt batteries. So inside the box we've got the table, the cutting head, the table extension arms. The table extensions screw into either side of the table there, and the screws are screwed into the table ready to fit them, but I'll demonstrate that later on in the video. The carriage slide, a dust bag, a couple of little hex bolts there. I don't know what they're for, we'll have a look at that when I put the thing together. This is a hold down clamp, and then we've got 3 different knobs. This one is for clamping the table when you've set the mitre angle. I'll demonstrate fitting that. This one actually clamps the slide. I don't know what this one is for, we'll find out later on in the video. And then we've got a dust extraction adapter, instructions and assembly instructions, and the blade. On the back of the table you can see there's a storage space there for the Allen key, and this Allen key is for changing the blade and also for making adjustments on the saw. You can see it's 2 Allen keys in one. There's a smaller end there. So also inside the box is the rapid charger, and as you can see it's a UK version. A 4 amp hour 18 volt battery, some instructions and paperwork. So that's everything that comes inside the box. So let's move on to the assembly. The first thing we've got to do is insert the carriage slide. Now this just goes into these 2 sockets here, pushing from the back, and it slides through. And as you can see, there are some roller bearings in there that just make this move very easily. Now in the instructions it says to make sure that these 2 nylon protrusions are sticking out. Now if I push this in, you will see that that pin comes out. That will stop you from fitting the cutting head on. So if you find that one or both of these nylon fittings have been pushed into the slide, then you've got to press the metal pin on the side in, use a thin screwdriver and just slide it in there and pull it out until it resets. So push in the pin, just get your screwdriver and slide it under there and pull that out, and then that's reset. The sliding carriage goes through the back there, through the 2 holes. This knob and this spring, they screw into here and they will clamp the slide. So I'll do that now. It's quite awkward to get it started because of the spring, but you've just got to persevere with it. There, I've got it started now. So now that is clamped. Make sure when you put the slide in that this handle is upwards, because this is a carrying handle. So next I'm going to fit the cutting head, and you'll notice that there are 2 sockets there. These sockets have got solid ends. They push against these nylon inserts and push the pins out and clamp the cutting head in place. So I'll demonstrate that now. Line up the sockets on the cutting head with the slide, and that is why it's good to clamp this down so that this doesn't move. I'm going to slowly push it in, and you'll hear it click when it pushes in the 2 nylon fittings. There. So I'm pulling now on the cutting head and it's solid. So that is a cutting head finish. That's very, very simple, so long as you've got this slide set up properly at the beginning. So that's a cutting head fitted. And now you can see we can slide that backwards and forwards, no problem. So I'm going to slide it all the way back and clamp it, which basically turns it into a chop saw really. Now you must make sure that there's no battery fitted on this machine, so it cannot run while you're actually fitting the blade. So if you're fitting this after it's been assembled, please make sure you remove the battery before you attempt to change the blade. So remember, we've got the tool in the back of the machine there for changing the blade. So under the handle you can see there's a little button there. That black button, that locks the spindle. And you need to lock the spindle in order to change the blade. So press that button in, it clamps the blade. Now this is a left-hand thread, which means it's clockwise to slacken it and anti-clockwise to tighten it, which is the reverse of a normal thread. So I'm going to take this out now. So just before I actually fit the blade, I just want to show you the best thing to do is to just pull this pin out so that the cutting head lifts up like this, and it makes changing the blade way easier. So I'll flip the saw around now. If I show you a close-up of that, so as you can see on this side, the protrusion there is very thin, and on this side it's a bit thicker. Now, if I show you the blade, the thicker side is 20mm, and it fits inside the blade there. So the way to remember is that the thicker side, the 20mm side, needs to be facing the outside of the blade. So put that on first. Now, there on the cutting head is a direction of rotation. There on the blade is a direction of rotation, and you can actually pull this perspex cover back to make life a bit easier. Now, be careful you don't cut yourself when you're doing this, because this blade is pretty sharp, but you can just slide it up there into the cutting head and push it onto that lug that's on that washer that we've just put in. And as you can see, it fits there nicely because it's 20mm, the same size as the bore of the cutting blade. This washer clamps the blade in place, and there are flats on the washer and on the spindle to make sure that you orientate it properly. And I'll show you which way that goes now. I'll just let that drop down. So as you can see, there is a concave edge and a convex edge. This convex edge goes on the outside, so the convex edge is now facing this way, and all you do then is lock the spindle again by pressing that black button. So it's anti-clockwise, keeping your finger on the lock button, and you can see that goes in fairly easy. And then once you've nipped it up like that by hand, just use the Allen key and make sure it's tight but not too tight. So put a fair bit of force on that, not too much, and then you can let that go. And that now is the blade fitted. So it's fairly simple. Just make sure that everything is set up correctly in here. There are diagrams on the instructions to show you how this all goes, but they're not that good in all honesty, so you've got to be quite careful you set it up correctly. So the next thing I'm going to do is fit the table clamp. Now there's a hole there. This just pushes through the hole, and there's a thread inside, and it just screws in. That's very simple. So the next thing we've got to do is to connect the two table extension arms, and you'll see we've got two screws in there. They're already in there. The thinner end of the Allen key fits them, so we can remove them. There we go. So that's the two screws out. That just drops in there. Drop the hex screws back in, again using the Allen key, and then just cinch them up. They don't need to be too tight because you could damage the arms by doing that because they're only plastic. There we go. So that's that one fitted. The same on the other side. That's one, and that's the other. So that's both the arms fitted, and you can see now it's starting to look like a mitre saw. The clamp, there's an L knob there where it goes. It just pushes in there, and then you can tighten that up. There's also a socket on the other side if you want to move the clamp across from one side to the other. And then the knob that I wasn't sure what it was for is actually for the depth stop on the saw. That just screws into there, and then you use this little nailed nut there to clamp it down. So that's the assembly completed, and I'm left with two little hex bolts that aren't mentioned anywhere in the instructions. Now, one thing I've noticed is if I zoom into the cutting head where the slide is, you'll notice there's a threaded hole there, and we've got the same on the other side. Now I think, I'm going to check with Evolution, that these actually screw into there and just provide a little bit more clamping force on the slide for the head. I think that's all it's for. So I'm going to fit them there, and I shall let you know what Evolution say. But that's my guess. I can't find any mention of them anywhere in the instructions. So I'll clamp that one down, and I'll clamp this one down. There we go. So once you've finished the assembly, remember to put the Allen key in its little storage space there, and that way you've always got it for when you actually want to make adjustments or change the blade on the machine. The last thing I've got to do is put the battery in. That just slides into the socket on the top there. So that's the assembly completed. I've fitted the battery, and the machine is now ready to use. The next video will be a review on the machine. I can't wait to do that because it looks like a smashing piece of kit. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for watching, and please take care.